Hello, my name's Ian James from Croydon, London Borough of Croydon, a peaceful and tranquil place like all London boroughs. I've actually spent 2/3 of my life in South London, but I was actually brought up in the People's Republic of Wolverhampton, as you might be able to tell by my accent. For the last 46 years, I've been part of a church called New Life. I became part of the leadership team in 1980 and then part of the ministry team in 1988, employed by the church, although I'm virtually retired now. If you told me when I was at school or university that this is how my life would pan out, I'd have said that you were mad. So this is an brief account of how it happened. In my early years, I had contact with what I would call Christian religion. It really came over to me like living a moral life by your own efforts. It was rules and duties and obligations. There was really no life in it as far as I could see. I found it very uninspiring, very uninteresting. And when I was 15, I walked away from it and didn't go into a church probably for about 8 years. During those 8 years, I wasn't recklessly bad, but I just adopted the received wisdom that life is all about activities and pleasures, about music, alcohol and sport. Those things aren't wrong in themselves, of course, but they're no foundation on which to base your life, as I found out. When I was 23, I was studying for my final solicitor's exams and had to devote myself to my books for 6 months. After a couple of months of this, not able to have any activities or pleasures really that I've been used to, after a couple of months of this, I got a bit low in spirit, which was unusual for me, and I realised that I'd been building my life really on external things, and I had no internal resources to keep me going when life wasn't congenial. So I determined that when I was free, I would seek out something that you could rely on when times were bad. And I decided to investigate Christianity first because I thought it promised the most. And I met a few people, born-again Christians, although I didn't use that phrase then, didn't know what it meant. And their lives intrigued me. And I was also given several books which had a great impact on me. I read a book called Who Moved the Stone by Frank Morrison, who's a lawyer actually. And that convinced me that Jesus Christ had actually risen from the dead. If that was so, for him just to be a good teacher or a great man was absurd as far as I could see. And then I read a book called Mere Christianity by C.S. Lewis, and the purity and power of his logic made a great impact on me. And by then I really believed that Christianity was true. I believed it intellectually anyway. Then I read a book called The Holy Spirit and You by a man called Dennis Bennett. And in the first chapter he invites you to invite Jesus to come into your heart, which I'd never done. So in a very religious way, I knelt down on the floor of my flat in Wolverhampton and I asked Jesus into my heart. In the second chapter, he invites you to ask God to baptize you with the Holy Spirit and then to open your mouth and speak in tongues. Well, I did that. I asked God to baptize me in the Holy Spirit. I began to speak in tongues and did so fluently for about 15 minutes. No great emotion except a feeling of peace. I knew it was real. I was the last person on earth to speak ecstatically or uncontrollably. And from that day, I believe I was a Christian, and God has since led me by a series of events I could never have predicted to where I am now. And I found the Christian gospel to be the most wonderful and exciting and rich thing imaginable. It's intellectually stimulating, it's emotionally satisfying, it's spiritually life-giving and refreshing. And God has directed my life in ways I could never have imagined. I just want to spend the rest of my life really getting to know Jesus better and better. I'm more excited now about Christianity than I've ever been in my life. I really thank God from the bottom of my heart for saving me. I just want in my remaining years to get to know him better and to be as useful to him as I possibly can. God bless.